Hello, welcome to Wisper University. My name is Nathan Stuke, and this year we're talking to top technology and company leaders in our industry. And today we have Martha with us. So thanks so much for joining us, Martha, and being part of our conversation today.
It's a pleasure, Nathan. I really appreciate the opportunity to chat with you and your cohorts. Look forward to the conversation.
Yeah, great. Well, before we get started, I thought I'd touch on, I got to talk to two gentlemen from South Africa that are wanting to start a Wisp, and they are just excited to get knowing. There's so much information, and they told me they subscribe to our channel, and it's just awesome to have that validation that we're helping people try to live out their dreams and be able to connect people. So I just wanted to put a shout out to anybody who's listening. Thank you so much, and we're always willing to help out where we can. But Martha, tell us a little bit about yourself. I hate doing introductions because I can't just read it off the sheet with the dyslexia. So tell us kind of a little bit about you and who you are, and we'll go from there.
Sure. So I think there are several ways to describe anybody. You can look at it chronologically. You can look at it in terms of your passions, and you can look at it in terms of your accomplishments. So I'm going to do a little bit of all of those in a very short period of time. My current role is at Calix. I've been there for about 3 years. Prior to Calix, I spent 5 years at Salesforce, and before that, almost 2 decades at Microsoft. So I consider myself to be a cloud digital native. I can also consider myself to be a builder. I think that being a business leader, building people, building teams, building value for shareholders and stakeholders is an important thing. I actually hail from the East Coast. I have no degree in telecommunication or experience directly in telecommunications, but I've worked with communication service providers both at Microsoft, a little bit at Salesforce, and clearly here at Calix. So I'm a technology geek. I love to play with technology. I love to meet with customers. And that kind of gives you an overview of, a very high level of who I am and what I like to do.
Awesome. So what state on the East Coast?
Well, I grew up in upstate New York, right off of Lake Ontario. Spent my college years in Western Massachusetts. Married and raised a family outside of metropolitan New York, and headed to the West Coast for a big promotion opportunity when I was at Microsoft. I landed in San Francisco, so was in the Bay Area for about 15 years. And my husband and I built a house recently and moved east. And now we hail from just about dead center between Reno, Nevada, and Carson City. So I'm in northern Nevada.
Okay, so you went West Coast, not for the weather, but for the job opportunity, right?
Well, I cannot lie.
Yeah. No, my favorite, I lived in Maine, way up very, very tip of Maine. And that was my favorite place to live because we just it got to be outside all the time, be involved with Boy Scouts and everything. So you said you've been with Calix for about 3 years. What kind of drew you to Calix? How did you get involved with Calix?
Nathan, I tell people this, whether they're candidates or interns or new employees who ask me that question, that my choice of career and company is based on 3 things consistently. First and foremost, the people. It is true that I've known Michael Weening, who is the president and chief operating officer now of Calix, for the better part of 2 decades. And he called me up and he said some very key things. He said, you can build it. You can start from scratch. We're transforming the company. We need you to help us build out this area of our business. Don't you want to come and do that? But I tell people that although people are very important and Michael recruited me, he's not really the reason I stay. I love working with him, but what we've had an opportunity to do is to build an incredible team. I used to have a big company bias that only the top 5 or 10% of companies could attract great talent. Lord, that is not true. And so it is really the people first and foremost. The second thing that I take a look at is the vision. When you have an opportunity to work for a company that wants to put a computer on every desktop and in every household, and a company who believes that the business of business is to make the world a better place, big, bold visions are really enticing. And if you want to have a long runway of your career, finding a place where the vision is compelling, and nobody can deny that the vision that Carl Russo has set for the company is a big, bold vision, transforming an industry. And the last one is a little bit hard to describe, but I call it sort of values. And, while every company has got some value statement, I look for people who walk the talk. And over the last year, with the COVID crisis and a number of the natural disasters that happened, what I saw is a company that didn't miss a beat, putting together programs and services, irrespective of compensation, to have the back, really to make sure that we were supporting our customers, because they are so incredibly important in the communities that they serve. And so, to me, that really spoke to me about values. So people, vision, and values. That's what drew me to Calyx and keeps me there.
Yeah, that's awesome. I mean, it sounds just like a Wisp, right? When, for the longest time at Wisper, the only benefits we had at Wisper was that you worked for Wisper, right? We didn't have healthcare, we didn't have dental, we didn't have 401k matching or anything, but we had a higher calling, right? The cause
Sure.
of getting people broadband connectivity and being able to help them. And I hear that throughout all the Wisp I talk to in the ISPs is, if the big guys had gone out and done their job, we wouldn't be in business, but they didn't. And now we're deciding to go out and do it. And I think it's great when you talk about the vision and the values, because I have not worked for a lot of other companies. I've done consulting for other companies. And when I consult for them, if they don't match my values, I I can't say it's this, because it's really not. And
Right.
That's awesome that you found a company that matches your values and really kind of stands out. That's good.
And is helping disruptors like you. So, you got to be able to do a job that you care about. And, I have an opportunity to lead the customer engagement and services organization. So we're all about customer facing things. And from a strategy perspective, my personal view is that we exist to help customers get value from the investments that they made in our platform and our technology. And, we like to say that we're not successful unless you all are successful. So it really makes me feel good when I can, when my team can help customers achieve their dreams, build their networks, satisfy, their subscribers, and grow.
Yeah. So speaking of customer engagement, we have COVID, a pandemic, and maybe if you go back just a little bit before COVID, what have you seen? Are there any shifts or any changes in like your customer needs that you guys are addressing? Has anything changed on the ISP side that maybe not everybody's aware of, or something we should look for?
Well, I think there are a couple of things. One of them is great news, and the other one is a very tricky and interesting challenge. The great news is that there's a huge amount of money being poured into this particular business segment. In fact, I don't know. Jim Cramer is Mad Money is a little hard to take for some people, but he did answer a question about high-speed bandwidth and growth and companies having an opportunity to really succeed. So I think that one of the things we've seen is that an industry that had been perhaps challenged and the funding mechanisms and the resources were not necessarily there. A number of not only government programs, but investment organizations, are beginning to pour money into the telecommunications industry, service provider industry. So that's the good news. The hidden, or perhaps wolf in sheep's clothing, to quote an old phrase, is a very interesting push by extraordinarily large consumer companies further and further into the home and into the data space of subscribers. Now, people have tried to disintermediate communication service providers for years. These organizations frequently take a lot of the cost, phone calls. Oh, if it's connected to my network, my communication service provider must know how to fix it.
That's because we answer the phone. That's because we answer the phone. If the other companies answer the phone, they would call them, but they call us because we answer the phone.
Absolutely, positively. Why? Because you care. Because not only are you the super highway for making these devices useful, they wouldn't be useful without you, but you answer the phone. So the funny thing about it, and you've probably heard Michael speak about it quite passionately, is that while many of these organizations would love to partner with you, it's not really a partnership. What they care about most is ensuring that they collect the data on subscribers and, frankly, that they maintain the relationship. So while it may sound really cool for you to distribute or to partner with one of the major providers of consumer product in the household, intelligent devices, the fact of the matter is that it's potentially setting service providers up for a big fall. They're not getting the information that makes it easier for you to do a great job for your subscribers. And if a subscriber leaves, they take all of that knowledge and information with them. So it's been super interesting to see these two things at play. A lot of opportunity for growth through investment channels, some interesting challenges to the core value proposition in your relationship with subscribers. And we're really trying to help you navigate both of those to your benefit.
Yeah, I think that's such an awesome thing to think about, because we normally don't think about the relationship with the customer as being our strongest point, right? I mean, we all want to do it and we're all local and we say that that's what we do, but when it really boils down to it, having that relationship with the customer, providing amazing service, and having the right tools to be able to do that, and knowing that the wolf is in the sheep cloak when they come in, saying, "Oh, we're here to help and we're going to do all this awesome things." So that's an interesting way.
It's a challenge. So hopefully we'll be able to help you all navigate it to your benefit.
Right. Absolutely.
And I think that one of the ways we do that is something I've been very passionate about that I brought from Salesforce is around connecting with customers. When you have a one-on-one relationship with your account team, that's great. But one of the questions you had sent to me was around how do we reach out to our potential customers? And, the funny thing is that technology has provided a whole new set of ways of doing that. So the very first thing that I did when I came, and what Michael asked me to do, was to build a portfolio of assets to engage with customers like you. So, community is a sort of a generic word, but in the context of this conversation, what we mean is an online community where customers and partners can talk to each other. Because here's the thing, we're having this lovely conversation. Human beings like to communicate with each other. And as it turns out, they're very open to sharing what their challenges are and to share what their successes are. Hey, I did this, it worked really well. So one of the core ways that we not only help customers understand what we're trying to do to help them, but to give them an opportunity to learn from each other is creating online communities where the star of those conversations are customers just like you and your constituents. And that goes along with a number of other assets that are available 7/24, 365. People love to consume video, so we created, massive video libraries with quick bites of information about how to do things. And all of these assets are available to customers at no charge, because we believe that the best way for you to be successful, remember I said when you're successful, we are, is if we are giving, if we share what we know and share it broadly. So I wanted to make sure that I addressed one of the questions that you had sent to me about how do we reach out to customers and prospects?
Yeah, I think that's interesting because it's, everybody wants to reach out to you to sell you, right? I get all these invites like, oh, just talk to my company. I think I can help you. And then like once you get in the door, then it's like, oh, hello, I'm here. And they're like, oh, sorry, who are you? Yeah. Because you've already signed the contract or whatever. And I've been impressed with your guys' approach of it. We have to make you successful and we want to make sure we have a long-term relationship And I know I put you guys through the ringer. I don't know. It may have been your longest evaluation and test. We tested everything. I did my super scientific testing where I would come home and specifically your guys' router, and I would swap out routers on my kids without them knowing. And then I would time, like when they got home from school, I would time how long it took them to tell me that the internet wasn't working or something wasn't working right. I'm like, all right, that router's out. Let me put in the next one, and we did all this testing, and I told you what I liked and I told you what I didn't like. And you guys, rolled out the red carpet to tell me what you were working on and what was going on. And then I kind of expected it to just stop afterwards. Right? Because once you got me to sign the contract, then it was like, all right, sweet, done, on to the next one. And then it's like this whole nother set of team comes in and they're like, all right, you're one of us now. We're here ready to go. Yeah. And I think that's just amazing how you guys have looked at that. And I think it fits well with the Wisp, because that's what we do to our customers, right? We take care of them. We're like, oh, it's 11:30 at night and you have a term paper due in the morning. Yes, we'll be out there to fix your internet tonight now if we have to. I mean, that's what we do as Wisp. And you guys are definitely very, very supportive of whatever issues we're running into, whether we cause them or it's something else that's going on.
Well, I'm glad you feel that way, because that certainly is our intention. And, being responsible for the services organization, obviously we fix problems, we consult, we do a lot of things. But I think the thing that I'm most proud of as we transform the business and offer, software as a service, our cloud products and those things. The interesting thing about it is that a lot of people don't understand that relationship. Like, why are you doing this? The why is, I'm sitting in a chair. No matter what I do, the features of this chair will never change. It does what it does. It's like a capital investment, if you will. Cloud services is a completely different paradigm. In fact, today I'm joining you on the day that we have our 10th successive quarterly release of our cadence-based products. So all the cloud products, the EXOS and AXOS and Support Cloud and Marketing Cloud and on and on and on. That commitment I think of as evergreen innovation. Now, when you have a product that's constantly changing, every quarter we're releasing new features and functions, new benefits. And oh, by the way, they're sophisticated. It's not like you take it out of the box, it does one thing, you figure it out, you just do that thing over and over and over again. You build your processes around some of these products. So customer success is all about that ongoing, persistent relationship to help customers get the maximum value of what they've already spent money on. Why? Because software as a service products, if you decide to go someplace else, there's no residual for us. But more importantly, you bought those products for a reason. And success people are about your reasons. Truck roll reduction, first call resolution improvement, marketing campaign uptake, more ARPU from your subscribers, whatever it is. And we measure ourselves on those things. So, when you go out to the Calyx website and you take a look at the stories and the very specific financial benefits, NPS gains, whatever it is that customers have achieved, they've done that in partnership with customer success. And I got to tell you something. I told you before, I worked for Microsoft for many, many years. I love them dearly. I use Microsoft products and I'm still a shareholder, but it was hard to even pay customers, incent them, I should say, in ways to provide those kinds of really compelling business stories. We don't have to do that at Calix. And the reason is because it really is a partnership. You tell us what you want to achieve. Our job is to go help you achieve that over and over and over and over again.
Yeah. No, I think that's great. And I know Calix is a relatively small company compared to the Salesforce and the Microsoft. You're rather large compared to the average Wisp.
Sure.
And I know one thing I spend a lot of time worrying about, I'm not a worrier, but I spend a lot of time thinking about, I guess, is how do I grow larger and larger and still let my customers feel that I love them and I care about them and we're going to do everything we can. It doesn't mean they're always right, but it's something that that we always struggle with, and it's always nagging in the back of my mind. And it's great to hear you say, hey, we are a larger company, we're growing, but we're still really, really focused. And what I hear you saying is that it takes effort, right?
Yes.
It takes effort. You can't just say, oh, send us your feedback and we'll do something. No, you actually have to act on it, and you have to do things. And I think that's neat to see that you guys have been able to achieve that. And that's something that we strive to achieve every time we add a new office or add more employees. How do we keep that feel for the customer?
Alive? I think it's a value that you have to communicate from every point of leadership and contact. So you have to start with it being a value. You have to care and recruit people who care. Communicate to them that they need to care. Measure them in a way that supports them caring. So if you start out with a strategy that says, hey, we're outside in, we're about our customers first, we're going to do the right thing for our customers, and we're going to admit when we don't. We're going to be transparent and candid and honest about making mistakes. It's amazing what leeway people will give you when you admit that you made a mistake. Shane Aleniak, who I know you know, in charge of products, and I were laughing just last night because this is our 10th release, and 2 years ago we had a challenging release cycle, and some things were not really where we wanted them to be. And guess what? Customers had done exactly what we wanted them to do. They took Support Cloud and they built it into their business processes. Their support teams, their CSRs couldn't get up in the morning and go to work without using the tool. And if it wasn't working the way it worked the day before, they were not happy about it. Mm-hmm. And so once we figured out what had really happened, we spent a tremendous amount of time making sure that we told them. And so I think part of building a relationship with customers is that you have to figure out how to gain trust. You can gain trust by giving them the services that they want, understanding, are they gamers, are they streamers, are they work from home people? You're responding to their desires. You can gain trust by communications, and you can gain trust by admitting when you make mistakes. So I think that I know I used Microsoft as a large company kind of at one end of the spectrum originally. They've made incredible strides since I left years ago. Salesforce was at the opposite end. When I got a call from the office of the CEO my first week on the job, because a customer who spent less with Salesforce than my kids spent on Starbucks coffee in a year, and the office of the president wanted to know how I was going to make it right for this customer, that spoke volumes to the commitment that the company had. And that's the ethos, the strategy, the approach that I'm trying to build in my organization, and is well supported by Carl, Michael, and the rest of the executive leadership team. So start with the strategy, reinforce it, communicate, be clear and honest about what goes wrong, and ultimately that builds trust. And trust is the most compelling, aspect of any relationship, right?
Yeah. Yep. I call it a trust bank, right? Mm-hmm. Every time you make the right call, whether it's admitting your mistakes or whether it's asking for help, or you put a little bit of money into that trust bank, and then when you really screw up, you get to take some out and you still have some left. Whereas if you have no trust at all and then you screw up, it just, your whole company starts to fall apart, both with your employees and your customers, because you haven't spent the time building that trust and letting them know who you really are.
Right. And, I obviously, there are people who plan for astronomical growth, and there are people who plan for measured growth. Mm. But at each time, a leader makes a decision about where to invest, whether it's people, whether it's technology, whether it's processes. If you decide that you're an outside-in company, that your customers' needs, your customers' feedback, your customers' interests are paramount to you, the profit will follow. And there are dozens and dozens and dozens of examples, and I consider Calix to be one of them, where that's the case. So hopefully, all of your members will, your associates will be able to grow and continue to wow their customers along the way.
Yeah, absolutely. So any new releases or developments or anything you have that you're allowed to talk about that you're excited about?
I am. Well, as I mentioned, we've now done, as of last night, our 10th successive quarterly release of all of our platform software products. And there are too many to mention here, so I'm just going to, I'm like Sophie's Choice, I'm going to pick my favorite ones. And while I deeply respect the core network, I'm really kind of about the subscriber. So I'm going to talk a little bit about the ones that touch or are used by companies like you guys to address the needs of subscriber. And that's our cloud product. So one of the things that we did with our support cloud product is there is a Star Wars quality, Star Trek, Star Wars quality command center. So, you know, I mean, when you ask a developer to create a user interface, they're going to be pretty functional. When you grow up and you can afford to have somebody who's responsible for UI and UX, the amazing changes that you can see. And why did we do that? You know, you might say, wow, putting a fancy or an elegant skin on it, what does that really do? Well, we all know that support organizations are measured on efficiency and effectiveness. So every time you can reduce a keystroke, you can provide a broader view of where issues are, or you can provide explicit advice about how to solve a problem proactively even, you are helping that support organization do better for their customers. And if we can get to the point where we can anticipate we're coming to that point where we can anticipate who might be having a problem and solve that problem remotely, well, that's nirvana. I mean, solving a problem before a customer even knows that they've got it. On the marketing cloud side, one of the big benefits is, you know, marketers use technology, but they want to make sure that what they're doing is they're conveying their messages and they're driving their campaigns. Well, you know, if you've got great technology, but you're swivel chairing between those technologies, you've got a targeting tool, which is kind of what our marketing cloud is. And then you've got a marketing system or an email, you know, MailChimp. It doesn't have to be a sophisticated, you know, expensive system. What we did is we've created integration so that you will be able to take segment targeting information. Hey, you want to sell a higher broadband service to a gamer. Well, make those messages targeted to gaming or to, you know, work at home. And then be able to immediately turn that so that you can send out that campaign information through a set of standard marketing automation tools that customers are using. So realizing that we don't exist in a vacuum, bringing our technology closer to the platforms and the other services in the you know, business process that our customers use. And the last one I'll mention is Command IQ, which is our mobile app that puts the power of managing the in-home experience in the hand of a subscriber. Now, why is that important? Well, I don't know about you, but if I lost my apps on my phone, I'm not sure I would know what to do. So everything from, you know, my thermostat to lights to, you know, door locks and all of those sorts of things. People are becoming more and more familiar with applications, and our patience has gone to almost zero. So if you can give somebody the ability to troubleshoot or to control their experience in their hand through an app and a familiar interface, well, why should you guys care? Well, the interesting thing about it is that the mobile app that we offer puts your brand first. So we have built it so that your colors, your iconography, the name of the app in the App Store, all of those things make sure that your brand is first. Why is that important? Well, we were talking about, you know, the big consumer giants disintermediating you. Well, they're not going to disintermediate you if your subscriber has got a branded app from you in their hand that helps them make use of the service that you provide all the much better. So those are just a couple of the things that we've done with our products today. And obviously they're all out on our portal if people are interested in understanding what else is available in more detail than I gave.
Yeah, I wish I could say we thought ahead and planned this perfectly, right? So you could have the release right before but it wasn't that way at all. It was just more of a, hey, let's have a discussion, and we had you on our list. But I think for me, the neat thing about the application is that, one, it's evolving, right? I want a way to communicate with the customer and let them know about maintenance, let them know about outages.
Sure.
I know when I used to have cable, it would go down. And I didn't know if it was my router that was having the problem, the cable modem that was having problems.
Right.
So I would rip apart first I would do some basic troubleshooting because I'm a techie person. And then I would call the cable company and I'm like, hey, I'm having problems. And they're like, oh, we don't have any notice of any problems. It must be your network. So then I would go rip apart my entire network and then only to call them back and be like, no, I'm pretty sure it's your problem. And they're like, oh, yeah, it is, 3 hours after the fact. And so I really, really like that ability as a non-technical customer to click and say, oh, no, it says I'm up. I must be having a problem. And one day, not in my lifetime, but one day when people have a problem, they won't call their ISP, right? Because when you walk into a room and you flip on the light switch, if it doesn't work, you don't call the power company and say, hey, your power sucks. You call an electrician and they come out and fix it. Mm-hmm. Right now in the ISP industry, if it doesn't work on one computer, then they claim that the internet doesn't work. It's like, no, the Xbox is working just fine. But that app is going to help that so much because they can very quickly say, no, it says everything's green. It must be this laptop. Oh, it's in airplane mode or whatever it is.
Yeah. Well, I understand and I can relate very much to your notification. The mobile notification was what you were talking about as part of the Command IQ app. And, I had, when I first moved to this brand new house here in the Reno Carson area, we had a minor earthquake and I had a power outage. And the really interesting thing was I had signed up for a mobile notification from my power company. And guess what? In minutes, but by the time I found my candles and my flashlights, they had sent me a notification that said, hey, we've had a transformer blow in your area. We know about it. We're going to be working on it. So an example of them knowing, because it was a system level problem. And while it was annoying to me, luckily it wasn't dangerous. I wasn't going to freeze or boil. But it really changed my perception of them as a provider of services to me. So I think that's a really good example of exactly what you're talking about, is helping you guys be proactive and communicate to build that trust and that relationship with your customers.
Right. Absolutely. So kind of wrapping up our talk here, I think it's been great. I always like to work in leadership and different things there. So, you went from Microsoft to Salesforce, and now at Calix, what's kind of some leadership tips, or what have you seen on that leadership side? Because as Wisper growing, we're getting larger and larger, and leadership requirements change. So what have you kind of been through with that, or what have you seen?
Yeah. So I have been in the leadership ladder, top, middle, and bottom. Bottom as in first line leader. If we're talking about people who have both team leadership and business leadership responsibility. And the funny thing is that, a lot of people think that it's that there's some magic associated with that change. And really, from my standpoint, I think that the same leadership principles apply. You just have to figure out how much you do and how much you trust others to do. I make it a habit of hiring people who could achieve more than me. When you make a commitment to try and hire people who could sail past you, and then trust them to do their job, obviously trust but verify, and then commit to developing them, the results can be absolutely incredible. But it is a very scary thing to go from being a super you could be the founder of the company, but if you're an individual contributor, it's kind of scary to go from that point to trusting other people to get the job done. So, the way that the companies that I've worked for have done that really successfully is that they start out with a common shared set of vision and priorities. Because it's sort of like a rowing team. If you know where you're headed and you get the right people in the right position on that team, and you hire really good quality people and they know where they're rowing to, they will row in synchrony. But it's the leader's responsibility to ensure that whether there's only one leader or there's a team of leaders or there's 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 levels of leaders in the organization, ensuring that you have a very clear idea of what the goals, what the vision of the company is, and what the priorities that you have to meet those goals. So I like to say that the lessons I learned were hire the absolute best people you can, people who may achieve more than you at some point in the future. Make sure that you are establishing a vision that's clear, for you and for your organization, and that you have a very purposeful conversation about the priorities that you have for them to execute. Beyond that, I mean, truthfully, there's lots of different ways to organize, and some work better than others at different company sizes. But if you keep in mind that any endeavor that requires human beings, communications, collaboration, and those core activities and those core skills are really the things that will help you achieve that great growth. At least they're the ones that work for me. And the companies that I've worked for that I see have been successful from a leadership standpoint. So hopefully that helps your.
Yeah, I think, it's interesting. I always say I like to hire people smarter than me, because if you're not, why would I want to bring you on? And it's great to hear you say that, because it is so true that I've seen so many, especially the small business owners, that they have to be the smartest in the room, or they want to be the smartest. And then they're the limit to their company, right? They're the bottleneck, because everything has to be approved through me. And yes, the people you're bringing in are going to make mistakes and everything. But if you allow them to fail in a safe way and then learn from it, and it is harder, right? It's easier to have a command and control. But then at some point, you just can't command and control anymore.
Right.
And you have to have that culture of trust. I like that, trust but verify. Hire people smarter than you, for sure.
And be clear about your priorities and your commitments. I mean, one of the questions I ask every leader who interviews with me, whether they're internal or whether they're external, is tell me about the best person you ever hired and tell me about the biggest mistake you ever made in hiring. And the reason for that is you learn a lot about, are they willing to take a chance on either a different experience or different knowledge base to add value to the team? And when they evaluate and they grow people in their organization, are they really focused on growing people? Because if you want to grow your business, you better grow your team. Yeah. You better grow their skills. You better grow their passion for the mission. You got to be somebody who builds teams of people. That's why I like to think of myself as a builder of people, teams, and businesses, as I said at the very beginning. And then the worst hire you ever made. I think that, admitting, we talked about it in terms of trust and transparency with your customers, but, transparency in terms of everybody's going to make a mistake hiring. Everybody, if they hire enough people, will make a mistake. Realizing it and taking action so that it doesn't pull down the rest of your organization are key things to do. Passing problems to other parts of the organization, is going to bite you at some point in the future. So those are my words of wisdom around leadership across the companies I've had an opportunity to work with.
Yeah. No, that's great. You bring up, kind of a bad hire, and a lot of people say, well, I don't have time to spend a lot of time hiring. And we used to always hire the first person that didn't smell, right? It's like, oh, they'll probably get the job done, because we just needed so many people. And what do we do? And then we found out that, 6 months later, they're not working out. Why it set us back so far? And shucks, we could have a whole nother discussion on why you need to hire, who you need to look for, and what you need to do. But I think this has been great. Thank you so much for being on with us. It's been a lot of fun talking to you.
The time went by so quickly, Nathan. Do you have that effect on everybody, making them feel comfortable and engaging them in conversations that they enjoy having?
I don't know. I hope so. It's fun
Right.
talking about it because it's so interesting just to kind of peel back. And that's why I like to send some like, hey, we're going to talk about these questions, but is it all right if I go like off script? Because really I want to get to the kind of the nuts and bolts of what I think business owners might be helped by.
I appreciate your agility around the conversation and your patience with my little stories here and there.
Yeah, no, they're great things. Great things. Well, thanks for joining us, and thank you everybody else for watching. Don't forget that you can subscribe to our Facebook page and our Wisper University, and we look forward to having you on our next Wisper University. Thank you, everybody.
Thanks. Have a great day. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.